What if living in purpose and expansion didn't mean leaving your partner or the life that you choose behind, but expanding into more freedom, love, and authenticity within the life you already have? Welcome to Awaken into Love. This is the place to be if you are seeking empowering and compassionate information and help, all on relationship OCD and life beyond our ROCD. Today's topic is going to be all about expansion, and we're doing a whole masterclass on this at Awaken into Life to talk really about the topic of expansion connected with ROCD and life beyond ROCD. But I was just feeling so excited to talk about this topic as I was researching it, as Manon and I have been talking about it. And it's something I feel like the world needs to know. How do you expand and live a life of expansion in your relationship, in your life itself, when you have relationship OCD or obsessive compulsive behavior? Expansion is something that is inevitable. It's part of growth. Whenever we have our RCD or whenever we're in that place of suffering, there's something within us that longs to grow, that longs to be pushed out, that longs to expand. And the reality is, as human beings, we are designed to evolve, and that evolution means expanding, means growth. But here's the contrast, and here's the struggle that happens with people with ROCD specifically. There's that yearning to expand. There's that yearning to change, especially if they're in the throes of ROCD, or even if they're in parts within their relationship that's causing suffering, and even different parts within their life that is causing suffering. There's something innate within us that says, this doesn't feel good. This feels uncomfortable. Maybe there's something that's different. Maybe I can use creativity, or I can go into a place of opportunity and think of ways that I can expand, right? That's an inevitable part of being human, this yearning to change, this yearning to grow, this yearning to evolve. I really believe that as human beings, we're constantly meant to learn, and we're constantly meant to change and to grow. But a lot of times our mind and obsessiveness keeps us in a place that contradicts those feelings that are so innate. So when we take ROCD as an example, we're in that suffering, we're in that pain, and there's something within us that's saying, there's more. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to constantly feel debilitated with these thoughts in my relationship. And if you're taking it with life beyond ROCD, there might be something within you that's saying, there is more, right? There is more within my relationship, right? There is more within my career. There is more something within my spirituality and within my purpose, right? But what happens to a person with ROCD and OCD is the fear of expanding is stronger than the actual expansion themselves. But the cool thing about ROCD and the cool thing about OCD is we can actually use our fears as a hallmark, not as a way that we're doing something wrong, but as a way to actually lean into the things that scare us. So I'll talk a little bit more about this, but that contradiction is something that people with ROCD feel all the time. And if you have just found out about ROCD, it would look like wanting to get help, wanting to get support, wanting to be able to break through the chains of ROCD, but also feeling a sense of resistance, right? Feeling that sense of, well, what if I find out a truth? What if I find that my partner really isn't right for me? What if I'm the only one? What if I'm not actually able to heal? And this is all a waste of time, right? We see that push and pull happening a lot of times with people with ROCD, but it can actually go a little bit deeper within our relationship, right? There's that part within us that wants to expand and wants to get through the suffering. But another voice says, well, what if I outgrow my partner? What if I grow and my partner doesn't follow me? What if I expand and my partner and I aren't aligned in the same beliefs, or have to pull my partner up and have them follow alongside of me in this journey and be exactly like me? And I've talked about the reason as to why we kind of go into that in the RCD course and home and even Awaken into Life, which is in many cases when there's that fear of growth, and the fear that our partner is going to be behind or our partner has to be exactly like us, is because we're afraid deep down that we're going to lose our partner, right? If our partner is very similar to us and going along the same path, then one, we may be putting our own projections into our partner, kind of fulfilling that identity within us. But there can also be that piece of us believing that, well, if my partner and I are along the same path, then I won't lose them. I won't outgrow them. And this comes down to the fear of losing control. Again, if I expand, I will lose myself. I will lose my relationship and my safety, right? Expansion oftentimes feels like we are losing control in some way, which clashes with the drive for OCD, which is the certainty. So the other core fears that are driving the resistance behind expansion, and again, expansion and growth is so important and necessary for ROCD and is so necessary for even life beyond ROCD. But again, these are the fears that kind of keep bringing us back into the contradicting feelings that a lot of you guys talk about with ROCD, right? This like wanting to expand, but this also this fear of expanding, and then also a part of us that's wanting to kind of stay in the suffering because it's comfortable and it's certain and we feel like we have control. There's also the fear of making a wrong choice in some way. Like if I expand, what if I make a wrong choice? If I expand into a new life, does that mean that I am going to then leave my partner or lose my partner? Or even meaning that I don't really love them. So this is where growth and expansion gets tangled into the fear of commitment, into doubts, even attractiveness and compatibility. There's also some core wounding around the shame about staying small. Say staying small, this is more so like a subjective perspective because we'll talk a lot about this at Awaken into Life in the masterclass that we'll do this month, but we're really going to dive into how, as a society, we are really programmed into believing that expansion needs to look and be a certain way, and how much that's hurting us and creating actually more obsessive compulsive behavior. But the aspect of staying small and comparing ourselves to others again can be a motivating driving force, but when there's so much shame and so much comparison tied to obsessiveness with the comparison, then we're usually in a place that is actually limiting and is actually keeping us more unsafe. And this comes back into that fear-based shame that says, why can't I grow like everyone else? And then we kind of go into overthinking that expansion and growth should look a certain way. And again, that comparison piece then can come up, and then we can feel like we need to continue to stay stuck and small in where we are. So there's a lot of parts that get enmeshed into the aspect of expansion. And I feel like this is such an important topic to really talk about because resistance and the fear of expanding and the fear of growth is going to come up for you no matter where you are in your journey. Being human means going against fear when we are about to step in out of our comfort zone. Being human means we're going to feel resistance. But for someone who experiences ROCD and OCD, it can be such a conflicting contrast that feels so opposite from each other that can create such friction that can keep us just stuck in such debilitating obsessive compulsive behavior where we can feel as though we're not really sure what to do and we almost feel paralyzed by making an action or making a decision. And again, these show up as, what if I am going to find someone else if I grow and expand? It can also look like, what if staying in my partnership means I'm betraying my purpose? What if I'm hiding behind growth to avoid making real choices and changes? What if I'm growing and my partner isn't? Why do I dream of expansion but also feel paralyzed by it, right? We talked about that contradiction that feels very evident somatically in our body. What if outgrow my partner, wake up in 10 years and I'm full of regret? Can I grow as a person without outgrowing my partner? I bring these up mainly because in our community, we see over and over again how much the shame of having these specific thoughts keeps us more and more in isolation. And that's why community is so freaking important. Actually, I really believe it is like the core medicine to all of this work. And that's why the RSD course is a community. Home, Awaken into Live, home is a community. And Awaken into Life has a community. Why? Because people literally come together to talk about these thoughts, not in a way that's compulsive, but to bring about the reality of what they're experiencing up front and be mirrored by it by other people who feel exactly the same. And I also believe that our idea of purpose and expansion, which again we'll talk about in this Awaken into Life masterclass, is really tied into a lot of societal beliefs that are so targeted around needing to find a purpose connected with expansion. Like we are expanding only if we are in a place of alignment, only if we are in a place of fulfillment. And we talked about this in Thrive last month in our Awaken into Life, but really the sense of I can only be in a partnership if I feel X, Y, and Z. I need to fill out my and figure out my purpose before I settle down, right? And how important it is to really question the narrative, not in a place of a compulsivity, right? Because we are part of the society, we are part of this collective, and we will be impacted in a lot of ways through society and in a beautiful way as well. And I don't mean to say that in just a bad way, in a beautiful way as well. It shapes us, it forms us, it pushes us to grow. But it can also be so important to ask ourselves, especially for someone who has a more obsessive compulsive brain, to just pause and recognize when you're coming to from a place of comparison and when the shoulds that are causing you a lot of misery and debilitation are coming more from the external world versus something that you value. So again, in our masterclass in the month of October, we're going to be diving in so much more to expansion, but I hope that this video was helpful for you in terms of understanding that resistance and that contradiction that happens when a person is wanting to expand and how it can show up within yourself and your relationship. In our masterclass for Awaken into Life, we'll be diving more about purpose and expansion with ROCD and beyond, not by choosing between love and expansion, but by learning how your relationship or the future relationship that you may choose to be in can actually be part of your growth. For the obsessive mind, purpose can be deeply fulfilling, but it can also be debilitating in a lot of different ways. It can inspire us to live fully, but it can also become this yardstick that we're constantly measuring ourselves against and our relationship against. In this masterclass, we're going to be helping you to really discern what truly is yours. So your passions, your longing, your values, and also what has been placed in your mind by society, by culture, by the external world in ways that you may not have been realizing are impacting you in your life and your partnership. We'll talk about our belief in terms of what we feel a purposeful and expansive life should look like. And we'll dive into a really important topic, which is what if living in purpose and expansion didn't mean leaving your partner or the life that you choose behind, but expanding into more freedom, love, and authenticity within the life you already have. So instead of treating purpose and expansion as a single right path, just right path, we'll be diving into how to hold it with more nuance so it becomes a source of meaning and not this endless doubt. And we're so excited to dive in with you. If you're interested in joining us, go to withawakenintolife.com. And if you're new and you're just starting out and you just want to know all about ROCG and find freedom from ROCD, then go to the ROCDcourse.com. If you'd also like an incredible community of people who are living all around the world, who are just like you, who have the same exact thoughts and the same exact feelings, just like you, and you want to walk alongside them and see them every week and rejoice in their growth and they rejoice in your growth, and you come with your questions to talk anything ROCD completely unfiltered, then join us at Awaken into Life Home. Everything is in the bio, all the descriptions and everything. And we're just so excited to have you. You may have noticed that we're going to start talking about life beyond ROCD, but we'll always be talking about ROCD and how it may be impacting your life. We can't wait for you to join us in whatever program you decide to join us in. But if you choose to watch our videos and podcast episodes, then you can watch and find all of our free content at awakenintolove.com under free. Thank you guys for being here. Here's to being human. I'll talk to you soon.